So, do you believe that speaking out against social issues is a part of your purpose? Well, hey, stay tuned because I'm going to share some thoughts on the topic. Welcome to Pushing 50 Seeking Purpose, a space where we can all grow in grace as we navigate this unique season of life. Now, I'm here to remind you that you have wisdom that others need, experiences that matter, and a purpose that only you can fulfill. So, today, before I actually present the topic, I want to share just a little bit of the backstory of um, of the inspiration for the actual topic. So, this past weekend, I was at a men's event, and the speaker there he gave like a really challenging word about righteous men stepping up, standing in the gap, and repairing the breach in our nation. And he addressed many different things. He addressed things like men not being in the home, or taking their rightful places in the community, fatherlessness, racial tension, and a host of other challenges that we actually see in our nation today. Now, at one point in the message, he stated that as men of God, good men, righteous men, says we can't be innocent bystanders. And as soon as he said that, it came into my spirit that when we choose not to speak up, when we choose not to take actions as men of God, men and women of God, we are not innocent bystanders, but we are guilty bystanders. And that is the topic that I have for today. The topic is guilty bystanders. And I know that's probably a term that you never really heard before. I never heard it before either, but guilty bystanders. We always hear about innocent bystanders, which is something terrible happens and maybe someone is literally standing by that's innocent. But I want to read this scripture reference, and it's actually coming from Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31 is verses 8 and 9. And here's what it says, and this is out the New Living Translation. It says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Yes, speak up for the poor and helpless. See that they get justice." So when we are silent in the face of injustice, we can actually find ourselves in violation of one of God's principles. It is a part of our purpose to glorify God by serving others. And one of the ways that we do that is by speaking up against injustice for those who are helpless and for those who are poor, for those who can't protect themselves. That is a part of our purpose. And that is one of the ways that we glorify God. So, speaking up and expressing disagreement with injustice, again, is a part of our purpose. And in many instances, it's the very least that we can do. Sometimes the very least that we can do is simply say something, say, "Hey, this is not right," and bring awareness to it. Now, I do recognize that there are many times that we have to exercise wisdom when responding to certain things, and that may require a little time to process and have a calculated response and things of that sort. However, that can't always be our default. That can't be our default. It is one of God's principles to stand up against injustice. Now, I'm here in the United States, and there's a lot going on in the nation right now that is just straight up wrong, right? And I can't just be a guilty bystander. I don't have a large platform. However, when I'm speaking to people, when I have the opportunity, I can say, "Hey, this is wrong. That is wrong," and that's the least that I can do in many instances. So, when you see people are targeted or mistreated on a massive scale, when you see people being crushed by oppression and injustice, we can't be guilty bystanders. There's a quote that says, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men or good women to do nothing." So, in my opinion, if we consider ourselves to be godly men and women, we have a biblical responsibility to speak out against injustice for the poor, uh, injustice for the helpless and those who don't have a voice. Now, I also believe that the greater the platform, the greater the responsibility to speak out. Like, right, the Bible says, "Whom to whom much is given, much is required." So, Yeah, I just really wanted to touch on that today because I got inspired by that message. So it's going to be a very short message today, but I just want to encourage us that we cannot be guilty bystanders as people of God, men and women of God, and really just people in general. We have a biblical and a godly responsibility to stand up and speak out against injustice. I think it was Martin Luther King that says injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And it may not be your people group or your circle of friends or your family right now, but however, you don't know what's coming next. You don't know who's going to be affected next. And if your set gets touched, you're going to want someone to stand up for your people, for your group, or that area that could affect you. So it is only right for us to stand up and speak up against injustice, against things that are ungodly, um, and not be guilty bystanders. So, hey, look, if anything in this message today touched you and inspired you or resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Leave some comments below. Do all the social media stuff, like, share, subscribe. Type questions, just say hello. Let's just go ahead and build some community together. I would love to hear your feedback or thoughts on this topic. But most of all, remember, hey, tell a neighbor, tell a friend, tell your auntie and mama and them that we're back again and we're still pushing. God bless.